Good morning, and welcome to Global Flows podcast. We delve into the global matters that move and shake the world with focus on the global flow of money, people, ideas, cultures, goods, politics, and trends. Let's see if we can catch up on 5 articles in 5 minutes. Hope you had a great weekend. Today's Monday, December 11th. And first, we're going to start with how China made a youth unemployment crisis disappear from the Wall Street Journal. When autocrat governments cancel unflattering statistics, the problem becomes the purview of anecdotes and guesswork. Here's China youth. Openings in China. Job openings in China percentage change from a year earlier. You can see a major dip. All of this, I think, can basically be tied to many different factors, but certainly COVID did not help. China's youth unemployment data. In June, China's youth unemployment rate hit a record 21%. Social trends among Chinese youth. There's a noticeable trend among young people in China, such as the lying flat movement, where disenchanted youth opt out of the job market, and the rise of full-time adult children live with their parents. I need to find the Chinese words for those things. Should be very interesting. Maybe I'll put them in the next podcast. Difficulty in accessing reliable data. Efforts to obtain reliable economic data from China are becoming more challenging. Key resources like China National Knowledge Infrastructure and Shanghai-based wind information have restricted access to their data. Okay, super interesting. Moving on. We love supply chain. Soft month for trade dashes hopes for China's economic rebound. Okay, you'll see lots of different takes on China's economy. Again, it's interesting to have so much hubris when predicting China, but if we look at the data, trade imbalances have declined. Blue here is Chinese exports to the EU dip, China-EU trade balance dip, Chinese imports from EU pretty steady. Okay. Going up back to the top, this is from Bloomberg, Brendan Murray. 3 key points. China's trade data concerns. China's latest monthly trade shows worrying trend, with imports shrinking unexpectedly in November compared to the previous year and exports only marginally increasing. Indication that China's economic rebound remains sluggish. EU-China trade imbalances. The trade deficit between China and EU and China has narrowed recently, but is still larger than the pre-pandemic levels. Meeting in Beijing, President Xi Jinping expressed a desire for China and EU to be trade partners. Geopolitical realignment in trade. China's trade patterns are showing a shift along geopolitical lines. Exports to US and EU fell 10% from previous year. Shipments to Russia surged by 50%. US imports of Chinese goods have dropped almost 23% through the first 10 months. That's huge. Let me just repeat that. Exports to US and China falling by 10%. Shipments to Russia have surged by 50%. US imports of Chinese goods dropped almost 23%. That's a big, big shift. Next article. US looks to shut China out of its battery supply chain. Okay, huge. China dominates EV batteries and batteries. So how does the US, from a cost perspective point of view, China is still number one. Materials point of view is still number one. This is from Reuters. There's a battery pack for the Ford Mustang Mach-E displayed during the Ford Motor Company announcement that partner with China-based Amperex technology to build all-electric vehicle battery plants in Michigan during a press conference. Okay, interesting. U.S. excluding Chinese entities from EV tax credits. Wow, the Biden administration is planning to exclude Chinese companies from receiving tax credits related to U.S. Electric vehicles EV supply chain as part of efforts to reduce dependence on China for critical battery components. Impact on global supply chain. This move, particularly the restrictions on battery components and critical minerals from Chinese entities, could significantly affect global supply chains and partnerships. There's a shift towards domestic supply here in the US. US aims to encourage the development of domestic mine to battery supply chain and reduce reliance on China by making EV subsidies contingent on sourcing materials. Super interesting, and also very big question mark as to whether we'll be able to do that. China currently accounts for almost 2/3 of the world's lithium processing capacity, 75% of its cobalt capacity, 95% of its magnesium capacity or manganese capacity, and just about all its graphite capacity. Not an easy task. I do think the administration sits there on their golden perch and decides these things. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to see. Though I don't think it's as easy as they make it sound. It's probably tens and decades of years of infrastructure and many, many billions of dollars to try to turn that around and operate here in the US. But I speak out of turn. I don't know all the details. I have heard it's not as easy as it would seem. Global pre-Christmas trade at risk from twin canal crisis. Okay, this could be huge because supply chain, as we know, has been disrupted like a mother the last few years, and right now freight is super cheap. It's about a tenth of what it was 2 years ago, and now this kind of thing really threatens the supply and the cost of containers around the world. Drought and conflict. Okay, you got the Panama Canal, you get your Suez Canal, and the blockages here because of drought in the Panama Canal and because of conflict in the Suez Canal. We shall keep an eye very closely on container prices and international supply chain. So here's your bullet points. Disruptions in Panama and Suez Canals, the global supply chain, particularly pre-Christmas trade, which, international containers are all over the place trying to meet the demand of Christmas, is facing challenges due to a drought in the Panama Canal, attacks near the Suez Canal. And big news right now is the Houthis declaring that they're going to pirate Israeli based or container ships going to Israel. So that probably doesn't help this situation. Impact on global trade and shipping. These disruptions are leading to significant delays and increased costs for shipping companies, with some diverting their routes from Panama to Suez. Long-term implications for supply chains. The situation underscores larger concern about the resilience of global trade networks and prompts discussions about alternative manufacturing sources. This is, I think this is the biggest shift of our time when it comes to supply chain. Friendshoring, deglobalization, onshoring, tariffs. There are lots of headwinds to international trade. Right now, the thing keeping it afloat really is low-cost freight. I think if you see freight really jump high, you're going to just see more and more motivation to pull things back to the places of origin where the distribution and sales channels lie. Okay, last one. Mega factories. Really? Mega factories in the US. Boy, they've been promising this for a while, and this article is about Ohio and Wall Street Journal. Mega factories are coming. Now the hustle is on to find workers. This talks about these huge construction projects. This is the Intel construction site in Ohio. The US experiencing a factory building boom as federal subsidies bolster the semiconductor and EV industries. Well, that ties into the article that we talked about before about the EV industries. This article from Joel Kilman. All right, here are the bullet points. There's really a lack of workforce. Workforce is the number one problem anywhere we go in Ohio, and it's more so in central Ohio. It's going to get a lot worse with companies like Intel. Here in Texas, here in Austin, we're building a lot of plants as well. Samsung, big Samsung plant, and Apple's here, and I think lately there's a hiring freeze amongst tech, so we'll see what happens there. But finding labor Seems to be a very big challenge. So here are the bullet points. Manufacturing labor shortage in Central Ohio. Central Ohio is facing a significant labor shortage in manufacturing, particularly in large factories, including Intel's new semiconductor plants and a joint venture between Honda and LG Energy Solution for EV batteries. Impact of new factories on local employment. These new large manufacturing facilities are expected to intensify competition for labor in an area already struggling with staffing, potentially leading to a labor crisis in the region. Wow. How often have we heard of the 50s and 60s and early part of the 70s in Detroit and the big automakers, and how things were good for so long and pensions were strong and the middle class really was built out? Is this a tie-in to some of that? I mean, are we gonna workers are very strong right now. A lot of labor unions are winning. So with lack of supply and high demand for employees, seems like they're holding the cards, and maybe we'll get back to growing out the middle class in America. Training and recruitment efforts to address the shortages. Companies are partnering with local education institutions like community colleges to develop training programs for prospective employees, focusing on equipping them with necessary high skills for high tech manufacturing jobs. Okay, super interesting, super fascinating. If you have any comments, questions, please put them in the show notes or by comments, and subscribe if you're interested in these topics. Have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you.